Today, we step into 227 BC, an age when the warring states tore ancient China apart, and one man stood on the brink of unifying the entire civilization under an iron fist. This is not folklore drama or romanticized legend. It is a strictly factual account of Jing Ke's assassination attempt on King Zheng of Qin, the man who would later become Qin Shi Huang, the first emperor of China. Every detail, every motive, every fatal mistake is drawn from Sima records of the Grand Historian, the most authoritative and rigorously researched historical text of early imperial China. This is the full, unflinching story of a suicide mission that came closer than any other to erasing the founder of China's imperial system and the catastrophic ripple effects that permanently altered the course of Chinese history. To understand why this desperate plot was hatched, we must first confront the existential nightmare facing the state of Yan. By the late Warring States period, Qin had evolved from a western frontier state into an unstoppable military juggernaut, forged by Xianyang's brutal legalist reforms that prioritized war discipline and total state control. Decades of calculated conquests had left Qin dominating the Central Plains. In 230 BC, Qin annihilated Han, the smallest of the 7 major states. Just 2 years later, in 228 BC, the powerful state of Zhaoyan's closest neighbor and buffer against Qin was crushed completely. With Zhaogan Yan lay completely exposed, its borders wide open to Qin's veteran armies. Yan's military was underfunded, untrained, and no match for Qin's battle-hardened soldiers. King Shi of Yan was weak, indecisive, and unwilling to fight a losing war. But his son, Crown Prince Dan, saw the truth clearly. Surrender would mean the end of Yan, its people enslaved, its culture erased, and its nobility executed. Prince Dan had once been held hostage in Qin, where he endured constant humiliation, contempt, and threats from the young King Zheng. That trauma left him burning with hatred and terror, and he reached a radical conclusion: Yan could not defeat Qin on the battlefield. The only way to survive was to decapitate the regime, kill King Zheng, and Qin's war machine would collapse into chaos. Prince Dan scoured Yan and its neighboring states for a man brave, intelligent, and loyal enough to infiltrate the most heavily guarded palace in ancient China, Xianyang Palace. He found Jing Ke, a wandering knight-errant from the minor state of Wei. Jing Ke was no common thug or mercenary. He was educated, thoughtful, and devoted to personal honor. He spent his days with poets and musicians, but he carried a quiet resolve that Prince Dan immediately recognized. When Dan laid out the assassination plan, Jing Ke accepted, but he demanded 2 non-negotiable conditions to guarantee success. To get within striking distance of King Zheng, he needed 2 items the ruler could not refuse: the severed head of Fan Wuji, a former Qin general who had defected to Yan, and whom Zheng wanted dead more than any other man, and the detailed map of Dukang Yan's most fertile and strategically vital region. Surrendering these would make Yan's submission look completely genuine. Prince Dan refused to betray Fan Wuji, who had sought refuge in Yan out of trust. But Jing Ke spoke to Fan Wuji privately, explaining that his sacrifice was the only way to save Yan from destruction. Understanding the stakes, Fan Wuji took his own life, gifting his head to the mission. It was a tragic act of loyalty that turned a simple assassination into a stand against tyranny. Jing Ke prepared his weapon with deadly precision. He acquired a dagger forged by Xu Furen, one of ancient China's most famous weaponsmiths, a blade so sharp it could pierce layered leather armor with ease. The dagger was coated in a fast-acting lethal poison tested on prisoners. It caused instant death if it broke the skin. This was not a tool for injury. It was a tool for certain execution. Jing Ke hid the dagger tightly inside the silk map of Dukang, where it would remain invisible to palace inspectors. Prince Dan assigned 13-year-old Qin Wuyang as Jing Ke's partner, a boy with a reputation for ruthless violence who had killed a man in broad daylight. Before departure, the group gathered on the banks of the Yi River, all dressed in white mourning clothes. They knew Jing Ke would never return. Gao Jianli, Jing Ke's closest friend and the master musician, played the zhu. As Jing Ke sang his final oath, "The wind soughs, the Yi River is cold. The brave man departs, never to return." He boarded his carriage and rode toward Qin, without glancing back, his fate sealed. To gain access to the court, Jing Ke bribed Meng Jia, a favored minister of King Zheng, with gold and jade. Meng Jia convinced the king that Yan was terrified of Qin's power and had come to surrender unconditionally, offering Fan Wuji's head and the fertile land of Dukang. King Zheng was overjoyed. This was a bloodless, symbolic victory that strengthened his claim to rule all under heaven. He ordered a grand imperial ceremony, dressed in his finest royal robes, and prepared to receive the Yan envoys in the main hall of Xianyang Palace. This was the moment Jing Ke had been waiting for. The two envoys entered the vast imposing palace hall, lined with hundreds of silent Qin officials staring at them. The air was thick with authority and fear. As they reached the steps leading to the throne, Qin Wujiang broke down completely. His face turned pale, his body shook violently, and he could not take another step. Suspicion spread through the court. This was a disaster. If the boys' fear exposed them, the mission would fail instantly. But Jing Ke remained calm and composed. He turned to King Zheng and apologized smoothly. This boy is a savage from the northern borders. He has never stood before the Son of Heaven, so fear has paralyzed him. Please forgive him, so we may complete our mission. Arrogant and overconfident, King Zheng dismissed the odd behavior and ordered Jing Ke to bring the map forward alone. Qin Wujiang was frozen out, leaving Jing Ke to carry out the mission by himself. Jing Ke approached the throne, carrying the map case. He knelt and began to unroll the silk map slowly before King Zheng's eyes. The king leaned forward, fascinated by the details of the land he was about to acquire. Inch by inch, the map spread open. And then, at the very end, when the map was fully unrolled, the gleaming poisoned dagger appeared. Tu Chong Bi Xian, when the map ends, the dagger appears. This is the origin of one of China's most famous idioms, and in that instant, it became a death sentence. Jing Ke moved with lightning speed. His left hand seized King Zheng's long royal sleeve. His right hand grabbed the poisoned dagger and thrust it straight toward the king's chest. Time seemed to stop. King Zheng reacted purely on instinct. He lurched backward with every ounce of strength, tearing his sleeve clean off. The dagger missed by a hair's breadth. Chaos erupted. King Zheng sprinted away, circling the large bronze pillar in the center of the hall. Jing Ke chased him relentlessly. The Qin officials were paralyzed. By Qin law, no court official was allowed to carry weapons inside the hall. All the armed guards stood at the bottom of the steps, forbidden to enter without the king's direct order. In those terrifying seconds, no one could stop Jing Ke. King Zheng tried to draw his own sword, but it was a ceremonial longsword, nearly 6 feet in length, secured tightly in its scabbard. Panic made his hands shake, and he could not pull it free. He was defenseless, a king running for his life from a man with a poisoned dagger. Just when Jing Ke was about to catch him, a small, unexpected hero intervened. Fan Wuji, the king's personal physician, was standing nearby. He grabbed the medicine bag he carried and hurled it directly at Jing Ke. The bag hit Jing Ke, slowing him down for just a split second. That split second was everything. The officials shouted at the top of their lungs, "King, wear the sword on your back. Wear the sword on your back." King Zheng understood. He slid his sword around to his back, gripped the hilt, and drew it in one smooth motion. Now, the tables turned completely. The longsword gave King Zheng a massive reach advantage against Jing Ke's short dagger. He swung the blade with full force, striking Jing Ke's left leg and cutting it clean through. Jing Ke collapsed to the floor, crippled. Knowing he had no chance to survive, he mustered his last strength and threw the dagger at King Zheng with all his might. The dagger missed, slamming into the bronze pillar with a loud clang, sparks flying off the metal. King Zheng then advanced and stabbed Jing Ke 8 times in a brutal, furious assault. Mortally wounded, Jing Ke leaned against the pillar, laughing bitterly. He cursed at King Zheng and revealed the true hidden goal of his mission. He said he had not intended to kill the king immediately. He had planned to capture him alive, hold him hostage, and force him to sign a treaty, returning all the land Qin had conquered from the other states. Only if that failed would he kill Zheng. He died, knowing he had failed, but he died unbroken. The guards rushed forward and finished Jing Ke off. King Zheng stood there, breathing heavily, his robe torn, his body trembling with shock and rage. He remained dazed and silent for a long while. The failure of Jing Ke's assassination did not save Yan. It sealed its fate. King Zheng flew into a terrible rage. He immediately ordered his top general, Wang Jian, to launch a full-scale invasion of Yan with every available soldier. The Qin army marched north and crushed Yan's forces with ease. In 226 BC, just 1 year after the assassination attempt, Qin forces captured Ji, the capital of Yan. King Si and Crown Prince Dan fled to the Liaodong Peninsula. To appease King Zheng, King Shi betrayed his own son, ordering Dan's execution and sending his head to Qin. But it was too little, too late. Qin's conquest could not be stopped. In 222 BC, Qin completed the destruction of Yan, capturing King Shi and ending the state's existence forever. Jing Ke's mission had the exact opposite effect of what Prince Dan had hoped. Instead of stopping Qin's expansion, it gave King Zheng a powerful emotional and political motive to speed up his unification of China. The assassination attempt convinced him that no single state could be trusted, that mercy was weakness, and that total absolute control was the only way to secure his reign. It hardened his heart and pushed him to eliminate all remaining resistance as quickly as possible. Just 5 years after Jing Ke's death in 221 BC, King Zheng conquered the last remaining state, Qi, and unified all of China. He took the title Qin Shi Huang, the first emperor, and built an empire that would define Chinese civilization for millennia. Historians have debated Jing Ke's legacy for more than 2,000 years. Some call him a reckless terrorist whose actions brought only destruction to his people. Others honor him as a selfless hero, a brave warrior who stood against overwhelming tyranny, willing to sacrifice his life to protect his homeland. What cannot be debated is his place in history. He came closer than any other person to killing the man who created imperial China. His story reveals the human cost of unification, the desperation of the weak against the strong, and the fragile line between failure and destiny. One dagger, one missed strike, one split-second decision, and the entire history of the world's most enduring civilization took the path we know today. If you enjoyed this journey into ancient China, hit like, drop a comment, and subscribe for more epic history. See you next time.